श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः. गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. कलये सुंदराकारं सदैकप्रियदर्शनम् अज्ञाननाशकं देवं सद्गुरुं मुरलीधरं यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण जिह्वायां वर्धते स्वयं महामन्त्रस्तं भजामि मुरलीधरदेशिकम्. प्रेमामृतं यो मुरलीनिनादैः श्रीकृष्णरूपेण पुराववर्ष. अद्यापि सोऽयं मुरलीधराख्यो पुष्णाति प्रेम्णा भुवनं सहर्षम्. कीर्तिते तु महामन्त्रे तत्राविर्भूय तत्क्षणं सुप्रसन्नो भवेद्यस्तं प्रेमिकवरदं भजे. मुरलीमण्डितकरकमलं मुनिजनमोहनं व्यत्यस्तपादं वनमालाधारिणं प्रेम भक्तमण्डल नित्य कीर्तितं प्रेमिकवरदम् आश्रयेऽहम्. नाम संकीर्तनं यस्य सर्वपापप्रणाशनं प्रणामो दुःखशमनः तं नमामि हरिं परम्. हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे. हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे. हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे. सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. Greetings, friends. It's a pleasure to join you all in this session of Answers and Beyond. Thank you for taking the effort to join in. And a very big thank you to our Global Organization for Divinity New Zealand for making this happen. It is indeed the grace and blessings of Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Maharanyam Shri Shri Muralidhara Swamiji, that has given me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you. The question that we will take up today is this. It comes from a friend in New Zealand. Why focus on one god or goddess? In Sanatana Dharma, so many gods and goddesses have been described. When that is the case, why should I stick to just one? Should I not follow everything? Does it not amount to being narrow-minded? Lovely question. The answer to this question in very simple terms is this. As Sri Swamiji would always put it, one should never confuse being focused with being narrow-minded. They might look similar from the surface when looked at from some distance, but they are 180 degrees apart. They are two very different things. They are exact opposite poles. Being focused is not being narrow-minded. We'll keep that in mind. We will go through many points and then we will be able to understand why focus is important and focus is not narrow-mindedness, which is the answer to this question itself. If we take all of us, on one side we have those that are believers when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to God, when it comes to scriptures, when it comes to all similar things, there are believers, the ones that believe in it, simply put. And then there are those of us who do not believe in such things. They're non-believers. It's totally fine to be so too. And then in this group called believers, there are those of us who believe in everything, which is a good thing. We believe in the words of the scriptures. We believe in the words of Mahatmas. We believe in the words of the saints and sages. And when scriptures describe different parts, when the scriptures give different names and forms to the same God, we believe in all of them. And such believers form this group that are denoted as Astikas in Sanskrit, meaning we respect and believe everything that has been told in the scriptures, that has been shown by the great ones. It's an absolutely good thing to do. That is where this journey begins. The journey in the path of spirituality. I first believe and I respect everything. All forms of gods, all names of gods. And then from there, as we progress spiritually, as we understand the concepts better by the grace of the Guru, by his divine will, we become more focused. We become more focused on one particular path, or a particular name, or a particular form of God. And that category is the bhaktas, the devotees. So non-believers, believers, the believers, astikas, those that respect and accept all, and then we progress from there to bhakti, devotion towards one. It becomes further focused. I'll take one step back and tell you about the greatness of our Sanatana Dharma, or Hinduism as is known. Many of us have such questions, isn't it? Why are there so many gods and goddesses in this Dharma, in Hinduism? We've all had such questions in mind, mostly because of our lack of knowledge and depth of understanding as far as Sanatana Dharma goes. Sanatana Dharma is very clear that there is only one God. There are not many. But the paths to reach him are many. As Yogi Ram Surat Kumar would put it beautifully, God is infinite and there are infinite ways to reach him. There are many names and forms of God that are shown in order for us to be able to choose and follow. It does not mean that there are many gods and goddesses. That's not how it has been said at all. We need to get rid of that misconception. Why give so many choices? Would it not be easier if just one name and one form and one path is shown? A logical question, but will it work? Because, as Swamiji would put it, devotion, bhakti, is love for God. Can love be forced? Is it possible to say that this is it, this is the one name and form, and you have to love it? Will it work that way? It's not how it works, isn't it? That's not how the heart works. It has to be spontaneous. I have to like it from within. Because our rishis understand this, our scriptures understand this, they give many different forms of Bhagwan, God, many different paths, and in Bhakti many different names and forms. I will put it very simply so that we are able to connect easily. If, to me, God is a motherly figure, that's what comes to my mind. One who's always full of kindness, taking care of the child. And then, for me, naturally, my heart will go out to the Divine Mother, Goddess, So there is goddess and there's a path, there's a name, there's a method in which I can do my bhakti. So Devi, the Divine Mother, is my goddess. If on the other hand, if my natural tendency is to look at myself as a slave, a servant to God who is the master, that's how I connect naturally. He is the master of masters. And I consider myself as a humble servant and slave who always wants to serve him. Serve him in everything that I see around. If that is my attitude, that of a dasa, then Hanumanji is my favorite god. That's how he served Ramachandra Prabhu, Bhagwan Sri Ram, as his dasa, always chanting his name, considering himself fortunate to have a master like Bhagwan Sri Ram. If that is how my preference and attitude is, then I would find my path in Hanumanji. He would inspire me. If God to me is like a child, I feel like I'm the parent, the father or the mother who has to take care of him, the little baby, the little child, then to me, Bala Gopala, that baby Krishna, and I am like Yashodama, taking care of him, feeding him, putting him to sleep, singing for him. That is my path. So you see what I'm trying to say? It's all one God. But our Sanatana Dharma gives all of this because it knows us very well. It knows that love cannot be forced. Each person has a different way of looking at things. Each person has a different tendency. So it gives all of this and allows us to find that place where my heart goes, connect to it, then I progress. So many here is a strength of Sanatana Dharma. It's not a weakness. There's no confusion there. It is I who is confused because I lack that knowledge, and because of somebody like Guru Maharaj, we are able to understand very clearly. Now it makes sense. That was a very superficial question to us. Why are there so many gods and goddesses in Sanatana Dharma, whereas it can be just one? This is the basis for it. It's a greatness. That's how broad-minded our rishis were. That's how well they understood us, understood how our psyche works, how we think, how we can connect and progress. It's compassion to ensure that we progress spiritually. That's the basis of all of this. Having said that, coming back, narrow-mindedness is very different from being focused. So I first believe, and then from belief, I respect all of this, and then from there I become more focused as a bhakta, because love, friends, after all, can be towards only one, isn't it? That love, that superlative love, cannot be towards many. A mother will never be able to love another as much as her own child. It's a fact. That doesn't mean that I have to hate another. That doesn't mean I have to disrespect another. If you are going to put it as a degree of comparison, nothing will match the love that she has for her own dear child. That's how a mother is supposed to be. It's a virtue. As Swamiji would very beautifully say, love one, respect all. That's how it can be. Loving one does not mean disrespect another. But love or bhakti can be towards just one. You will find this in the divine lives of all bhaktas, those who followed the path of devotion, the great Mahatmas. If you take, for instance, the 9 Mars, Shiva Bhaktas, the ones who have bestowed us with Devaram and Tiruvachakam, the Tirumuraigal. they would melt and sing their hearts out about Parameshwara, Shiva, but you would hardly find a mention of his divine consort, Devi, Mata, Shakti. To that extent, they would be focused. That need not be viewed as disregard for Devi, but it merely is focus on Shiva. The same with the Alvars. In the Nalaira Divya Prapantam, they would sing about Bhagavan Sri Hari Narayana so beautifully in so many verses, but there would not be a separate dedicated mention about Thaya goddess in any of the verses. Focus. Bhakti can be like that only. Even if you take Krishna Bhaktas, at one point we think that Krishna Bhaktas are one group. Not really. There are those, somebody like Mirabai, who would sing all about one particular form of Krishna. The Krishna that is lifting the Govardhana, Giridhari. There would be another great saint who would sing only about Bala Gopala, the little baby Krishna, and nothing else. Not even another form of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. That is how they were focused. That is how bhakti is. That is how love can be at that level. As it becomes more and more and more, it becomes focused. It's very easy to understand if we look at it even from a very worldly point of view, isn't it? As you progress, or if I want to progress, in any field for that matter, it always keeps getting narrow, isn't it? I can't do many things and expect to excel in everything. Maybe it might happen for one person who's a genius, but not for most of us. I would have to pick that area where I'm good at, then I have to narrow it further down to that spot where I can really specialize and excel, and that is how progress can be made. So as we become focused, we progress as well. It's the same in that sense as far as spirituality is concerned. That's how it works. The options are given for me to choose. Pick that place and go towards it. Some concepts would become absolutely clear to us when it's explained by somebody like Guru Maharaj. Still then, we're reading books, we're reading and hearing different things from different people who have also read books. But to hear it from someone who has actually experienced it is a whole different thing. And it's always the case, isn't it? Let's say there is books and volumes where you read about a complicated surgery in the heart and this and that, and then a cardiothoracic surgeon comes and explains it to you because he's actually done it. It looks very simple and very clear because he has done it. He knows it. It's direct experience. The same here when a saint explains it. When somebody with direct experience explains it, it pretty much becomes very simple and clear. Swamiji would say, when we say that, why should I always stick to one particular God, one particular name? Is it not narrow-minded? After all, our scriptures show all of this. Should I not be worshipping everybody? Should I not worship Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Subramanya Swami, Shiva, Goddess, Hanumanji? Why stick to one? It's very narrow-minded. Swamiji would say, it's not so. It's because you don't understand these concepts clearly. They are yet to become experience. That's why you have this confusion, he would say. I will tell you how. For somebody like, say, Bhadrachala Ramadasa, the great Mahatma who was a Bhakta of Bhagavan Sri Ram, There was nothing in this universe other than Sri Ram. All he saw was Sri Ram, nothing else. For Mirabai, all she saw was Krishna, Giridhari Krishna, nothing else. That was the only name, that was the only form, that was the sole existence, there was nothing else. Whereas, for someone like myself, I see differences in everything, because that is where I am as far as spirituality goes. I am at the first step. To me, there are those that I like, there are those that I don't like in this world. I see all the differences. I can see the rich and the poor. I can see the learned and the illiterate. I can see differences in everything. I have preferences in everything. That is my state today. And I apply the same mindset when it comes to God too. So I want to think that Bhagwan Ganesha is there, and then there is Subramanya Swami, Lord Muruga, and then there is Rama, then there's Krishna, and then there is Surya, then there is Devi, the Divine Mother. I see the differences. And I tell myself that I need to satisfy all of them. It's like how I would do with the people around me. I make many friends. I tell every one of them that they are the ones that are closest to me, and I keep doing things to make sure that every one of them is satisfied. If I give more attention to one, I fear that another will be upset, so I try to do the balancing act with all of them. The same mindset I apply when it comes to divinity as well. That's me. That is where the confusion starts. And then I have my backup plans, isn't it? Let's say, for instance, tomorrow I have to go early morning to a particular place. It's an important appointment I don't want to miss. I need to wake up at 5 o'clock. I really don't trust myself to do it. So I call up my friend A and I tell him, like, look man, you're the one that I trust in. You need to call me up at 4:45 and wake me up, because if I miss this, I'm gone. I really trust you. So this friend is very happy because I trusted him and I've given him this something important. So he says, don't worry, I'll do it. A little while later, what happens is I think, what if he sleeps? I better have a backup. So I call another friend and I tell him, you're the one that I trust, so please call me at 4:50 a.m. because if you don't do so, my life is doomed. So that friend also feels very good. And he says he will definitely call me. And then I don't stop there. I have a backup for the backup. I do the same thing with a third person also. 4:55 a.m. you have to call me. Let's say all three of them met up that evening. What would happen? One casually mentions that, he needs to go to this important appointment. He's told me to give him a wake-up call at 4:45. And then everybody has a similar story to say. And what would they think of me? Leave that. At least they would tell each other that the other one is going to call. I need not call him and wake him up. So leave it. All three of them will let go and I will not make it. The backup mentality that I have, I apply the same to God as well. Let me go and do this for Bhagwan Sri Krishna. And then I come back and I wonder, what if it does not work? Let me have a backup. I will also tell Bhagwan Sri Ram. And then I will back up that backup by also doing a bit of my worship to Devi. Because I'm applying this mindset there also. And I'm also worried if I will end up displeasing one by worshipping another. Trust me, friends, as Swamiji would put it, the gods and goddesses are not in dispute with each other. They are just one. The different parts have been given for me to choose from. They don't have any such issues. God is not that insecure. He's not going to think that if I worship one form, the other form is going to become angry. Never. And these Mahatmas, Bhadrachalam Ramadasar, Mirabai, saw nothing but Bhagwan Sri Ram or Bhagwan Sri Krishna. Nothing else was visible. So they didn't have to sing of another because they saw just one. In that sense, that is broad-mindedness, because everything everywhere is that God, that form of God alone. It's truly broad. Whereas I see the differences in everything, and I believe that I have to satisfy all of them. So Monday I go to a particular temple, Tuesday to another, Wednesday to another temple. I do this every single week of the day because I have a timetable, and I like to think I'm broad-minded because I'm worshipping them all, but actually I'm narrow-minded because I'm the one that has divided this and I'm seeing the differences. So it's the other way around. Swamiji explained. What we think is narrow is truly broad, because there's just one name and one form at that level. And what we think is broad is narrow because we are seeing the differences. I hope I've made it clear. A beautiful explanation, a very unique explanation that Sri Swamiji once gave while defining being broad-minded and being narrow-minded when it comes to spirituality. So focus is important, and it truly is broad-mindedness, because that focus will lead to that level where we see nothing but that name and that form alone, nothing else, nothing else. I'm reminded of this story that I once read. There was a man, he did not have a job at that time, tried really hard, nothing worked. He tried all the interviews. That was pretty much the one thing that he was doing every single day, and he was not very successful. He was very, very desperate. One day when he was returning home from one such failed interview, he saw a man who was sitting on one side of the road. He said, "Why are you so sad?" He said, "This is my situation. I don't have a job. I don't know what to do." He pointed to the temple nearby, the temple of Bhagavan Sri Ram. He said, "I think one of the reasons why you have not been successful is you have not made a prayer to this particular God here in this temple. Trust me, it will work. Do it, and then attend your next interview. It will happen." So he went inside the temple. He worshipped. He also got a picture of that Bhagavan so that he can fix it in his house in the altar and offer worship every day. He's at this point of life where he's got nothing to lose. He said, "Why not try it?" And very, very sincerely every day he would wake up, he would offer incense and some milk. In about a week's time, he had an interview call. He went to that interview. It went really bad. And when he came out, he was really annoyed when he thought of this particular man who had pointed to this temple. "If I meet him again, he's done for," he told himself. It so happened that he met another friend that evening, and that friend said, "This is what you need to do. I understand that you worship Bhagavan Sri Ram, but I will tell you a better way. It worked for somebody that I know. Give that up. There is Ganesha. I will give you a particular portrait of Ganesha. Place it in your altar. He will grant prayers very easily. I've heard about people who've been successful." So he brought the picture of Ganesha, fixed it next to that Bhagavan Sri Ram, started offering incense to Ganesha and the milk as well. Another interview, it was even worse. He was insulted and humiliated. You can imagine how he felt. And then there was another person that pointed him in the direction of Durga Mata Devi. So he was attending interview after interview, and the only thing that was happening was that wall in that puja room in the altar was getting filled little by little, one picture after another. There was hardly any space left. After many weeks and many portraits, he was this close to giving up hope in life. At that time, he happened to meet a family friend who said, give all of this up, man. In Kali Yuga, this age that we live, you know who is the most effective and quick Swami as far as bestowing wishes is concerned? It's Hanumanji. You should hold on to only Hanumanji, not even Bhagwan Sri Ram. Try this one last time. If it doesn't work out, you can come and ask me. And he gave him a photo of Hanumanji. There was space left just for Hanumanji, and that space also got occupied. With no faith and extreme disgust, he offered puja to Hanumanji before going to the interview next day. When he went to the interview, he got selected. He pinched himself because he could not believe he met so many failures in life. He thought maybe he was dreaming, but he actually got selected. You can understand how he felt at that moment. He was overjoyed. He came back home. He told everybody that he knew that the only God, the only form of God that is real is Hanumanji. Nothing else, nobody else. And he was ready to offer puja that evening. He brought the incense, he got the milk. And as he was about to offer, a thought struck him. He looked at all the portraits. It was like an army of them. And he looked at them and he said, none of you deserve to smell this incense, this fragrance, and none of you deserve to drink this milk. Only Hanumanji does, because he is the one that did it for me. This is what I'm going to do. You are not going to get it today. So he got some tiny plasters, like sticky tapes. He cut it and stuck it across the nose and mouth of every single god in that portrait. And after doing it, he offered the incense and milk to Hanumanji. He said, only you should consume it today. The moment he did it, and he was doing his puja, he heard a huge sound at the door, like somebody, a group of people, a mob of them were knocking on it. He got scared. He went to the door, he opened the door, and what he saw almost made him to faint. Every god and goddess who were there on the wall were standing there. A whole battalion of them. There was Ganesha, there was Rama, there was Krishna, there was Devi. It was like, what's happening here? Am I dreaming? It's real, they are standing here. It took him a while to collect himself. And then he laughed at them. I've known how people in this world behave. When they need something, when they have to get something from you, they would come, they would be with you. When you need something from them, they will never show up, they will run away. This is true of human beings. I've seen a lot of them. Even I have been like them at times. But I did not realize even you are like that, gods and goddesses. Every single day, for several weeks, I've been offering incense and milk to you in my altar. You did not do it for me, you did not help me, you did not show up. But one day, I stick the tapes and I deprive you of the incense and milk. Here you are standing at my doorstep. This is shameless, shocking. Will gods behave like this? He asked them. And do you know what reply he got? All of them said in unison, do you know why we came today to your doorstep? Today was the first day in your life that you actually believed that we are alive. You believed in us. You understood that we will smell that incense and drink that milk. And when you believed in your heart, that is why you put the tapes, and hence we are here. You believed, we are here. That is a fact, isn't it, friends? That belief, that faith, that love has to come from within. The many forms and parts have been given in order to allow me to connect to that one in a heartfelt manner. And when I believe and when I connect, then I progress. This is exactly why the stress is always laid on one name and one form. Once somebody asked Sri Swamiji, why is it that you're always talking about Bhagwan Sri Krishna alone most of the time, about Sri Premika Varadan, and always singing his glory, speaking of his stories and chanting his name? What about the others? Swamiji gave a very beautiful reply. I will say it in Tamil as he said it and then translate it for you. Krishnara ஆராதிக்கிறதுக்கும் வழிபடுறதுக்கும் அவன் நாமங்களை சொல்வதற்குமே எனக்கு நேரம் போறல, அப்புறம் நான் வேற எதை பத்தி யோசிக்கிறதுன்னு சொன்னார். Meaning, I do not have enough time to worship Krishna, to chant his name. 24 hours is not enough. Where will I find time to think of anything else? This is exactly the answer to this question, friends. And Swamiji would put it very beautifully when it comes to the core principle of Namadwar. He would say, whatever philosophy you follow, be true to it. Chant Nama, he would say. Respect all, love one. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Sadguru Nath Maharaj ki Jai. Thank you.